process that might be called connecting the dots. So think of the Big Dipper. So the Big Dipper is these dots that appear in the night sky. Now you may think of it as a Big Dipper, but the way it becomes a Big Dipper instead of just dots in the sky is you imagine that those dots are connected. Dots aren't connected. There is no Big Dipper. There's just dots in the sky.
What?
There's no Santa Claus either. So by analogy, that illustrates how every and anything is imagined to exist as an entity or as an object, as a thing that seems to have coherence or identity or some kind of. But in actuality, there's just disconnected dots or disconnected flashes or disconnected whatever you want. Thank you. Infinite energy events. And the operative word there is disconnected. The connections are supplied by imagination. The Big Dipper is imagined into existence on the basis of the presence of these little dots of light.
And that's our daily life. And that's why.
Well, it's not your daily life. Your mind may like to pretend that's your daily life. Your daily life is just the dots. Would you mind hitting the door?
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Alan was just coming in. That's why.
Oh, I was looking for him.
He's a bump.
Where'd he go?
There he is.
It's like, or you think of it like a TV screen. If you look up close to the TV screen, when the show's on, you'll see all these little dots of flashing light. And yet you watch the TV, so you're watching some movie, and it looks like there's people running around doing things and all this interaction. There's no people there. There's no environment. There's no things. There's no. The only thing that's happening is little dots of light flashing. And the imagination turns those dots of light into a movie, which has characters and plots and events, and then that imaginary projection gets an emotional reactivity to it, and then you're being jerked around and excited by the good parts and angry at the bad parts and emotionally moved by the sad parts and so on and so forth. I mean, it's a perfect illustration of what's going on here. But there's nothing there but little flashes of light, and all the rest is fantasy. And more subtly still, even the fantasizing is itself little dots of light, little flashes of light.
Like thoughts don't think other thoughts.
No, of course not. Thoughts don't think. Thoughts don't exist. Thoughts are just flashes of mental energy. Mental energy exists, but mental energy is just primal radiance, primal actuality, flashing. Again, those flashes are turned into thoughts by connecting the dots, imaginarily, or analogously.
But that's radiance connecting the dots too.
Yes.
So another really good example seems to me currently playing out apparently in most of our field of experience is the political environment, which appears to have all kinds of energy to it.
Change the dots.
Yeah. And dots are connected all over the place. Everyone's perception of what's going on and what it takes to properly resolve it or turn it around or whatever it is different, is unique.
Of course, absolutely.
And so it sets up, for those of us who are into this exploration of the nature of our experience, it sets up a very interesting opportunity, I think, because the political environment's very loud, very much in our faces right now, or to the degree we care to see it that way. And the opportunity to let that be yet another opportunity to go deeper into our experience and recognize the nature of experience, not necessarily the connected dot interpretation of experience. It's very interesting to me.
It is. It's
how
fascinating.
that plays out. Yeah. How does it work for you? Now, when you observe the crazy things that you seem to think Trump is doing, or whatever your perspective may be on that, how do you deal with that? How do do you take that into your life or not respond to it in any fashion?
Well, it seems to me like everything else.
Uh-huh.
I mean, everything is if my mind resolves it as being anything, it's just more craziness and more of the ongoing, dance of energy that actuality consists of.
Mm-hmm.
So, any apparent human behavior or expression, or anything else for that matter, is it's just that. It's this dance of energy, intrinsic, and it's not. It's all an outgrowth of the whole. None of it exists autonomously.
You find your response to whatever may come up.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
For example, maybe it's time to vote for this person or that person.
Right.
Does that seem to just naturally unfold in whatever?
Oh yeah. No, I have all kinds of responses, but those responses are themselves just more of this natural energy.
Yeah.
They're not. It's not personal. It's a
Right.
natural apparition of energy.
So sensing that what's appearing is not really what it is, the response is coming from that knowing, understanding that this appearance
No,
is
not necessarily.
No.
The response may be whatever it looks like, but it isn't actually that, because of course it is just radiance. It is just primal energy or whatever.
What might it look like?
Anything. I might get pissed off.
Pulling out your hair or?
Whatever. I don't try to fill out my hair. I don't have that would be a feat. I need tweezers and a magnifying glass. No, whatever. I don't know. But the point is that, it's not a matter of avoiding human behavior or human reaction or human interaction. It's seeing that human behavior and human reaction, human interaction aren't that. A human reaction is not a human reaction. It's not human and it's not a reaction. It is itself a primal flowering of actuality. Not in an abstract sense, in a concrete sense.
It seemed that initially, well, not seemed. I seem to have to remind myself these things. It's not, the more that there's an apparent charge of energy,
But you don't have to remind yourself. Your mind has to remind itself.
okay, yeah. But it seems to.
But the mind can't get this anyway, so there's no reason to try and drag it along. Turn the mind out to pasture like you would your demented old mother yelling inanities from the back room of the house. It's like, yes, mother, I'll be in a while to check on you.
Or father, if you're
That's what.
politically
Yeah.
sensitive.
I mean, the mind does not need to be corrected. It doesn't need to be brought into the fold or brought to lucidity. The very nature of the mind is to generate these fabrications.
So it's really not the mind that's seeing through. I guess I'm getting
But
something.
it's not the mind that what?
That is seeing through this.
No, the mind doesn't see anything. Mind doesn't see. Mind is inert. Mind is an object. Mind is not a subject.
So the seeing through that is occasionally realized isn't this. It's
Of course.
just.
Of course not. What sees is what sees. What's seeing right now? What's seeing your experience right now? What is it? Where is it? That's what sees. And it's always seeing. Thoughts don't see. Thoughts appear. They're objects. They're not subject. Thoughts have no agency. Thoughts are effects, they're not causes.
So thoughts are effects. What are the effect of them? Awareness?
No, thoughts are the effect of what everything's the effect of, which is the primal radiance. You can say awareness. Primal awareness is awareness, what we call awareness. I mean, our language is notoriously inaccurate about all this stuff. But the primal, the actuality itself is awareness, is primal radiance, is consciousness. But it's not actually those things as defined. But what those things actually are is it. And that is the sole cause of all effects, and everything is an effect. And in fact, the effects and the cause are one, because the effect is made out of the cause. It's not like the cause is acting on something else and changing it. The effect generates it out of itself, within itself, and it never departs from itself, like a dream. When you dream a dream, you aren't creating anything. It's not like the dreaming is over here and the dream gets created over here. The dream that's created is within the dreaming, is made of the dreaming, occurs within the dreaming, and never departs from the dreaming.
So there's no cause and no effect, really.
Right. Exactly. There's one event that happens in one way, and it's doing itself. And so everything that we look at and everything we can talk about and think about is actually that. So we can say, oh, I had all these thoughts and I got distracted by this, and then I remembered, and then I saw, and then blah, blah. So all of that narration is just another way of saying this doing itself. So all the elaboration is unnecessary and inadequate and inaccurate. Because it's created by a partializing free association on something which is not that. Just like a dream. You say, well, I had a dream last night and I dreamed that such and such happened, and so and so came up and talked to me. It didn't happen. Someone wasn't there, didn't come up to talk to you. All of that is a connecting together of experiences that are completely amorphous and fluid and never actually concretize into being precisely that way. And even in the waking state, exactly the same things happen. We can say, well, we're having a conversation, you're sitting there, I'm sitting here. But if you look at the actuality of our experience, it's extremely fluid and morphing, continually changing, and perspectives are shifting, and the whole thing is just drifting around wildly. So all of these attempts to describe it or concretize it is heavy-handed oversimplification of something which is vastly more slippery than that.
How do you mean it's drifting around wildly?
That's poetry. What I mean is that any perspective or anything that you seem to be focusing on, you've already moved on to something else in the next instance. The idea that there is strict concentration and fixity of attention and all that is heavy-handed spin doctoring.
Yeah, it's easier to see that the unreality of the dream, or versus this waking state.
Yeah.
Seems to be a little more continuity here. I'm not changing bodies from one another.
Right. But the continuity is manufactured and held, maintained very heavy-handedly by imagination. Like you can tell this when looking at somebody's face is an interesting study. You'll find when you look at someone's face, your eyes are actually dancing around looking at little snippets. It's like you're taking a little snapshot. If you actually look at someone's face and hold your eyes very rigid, the face almost disappears within a few seconds. But it's the dancing around that enables it to seem stable, paradoxically. Because it gives there's less evidence of the actual drifting and unresolvability to give the senses. Because if you're just taking little snapshots, you aren't staying with it long enough to see how incoherent it really is. So it's easier to maintain that, oh, your face looks exactly like your face and it's not changing and so on. Again, this exercise, I'm sure most of you have heard me talk about this exercise before. And I really recommend you try it sometimes. It's very, very simple. Like, if you go to a wall, a blank wall like this right here, where there's no recognizable objects or anything to really differentiate particularly. And just sit with it, like, the amount of lighting that's behind Peter here is ideal. Sort of a neutral, even lighting. And just sit quietly and gaze at the wall without, not rigidly or tightly or anything like that. Just relax and gaze at the wall and without letting your eyes wander. And within moments, you'll feel like someone dosed you with acid. You'll notice that the whole everything it starts flashing and breathing and moving in and out. It's, you try to see it. It happens instantaneously. And this is what your experience always looks like, but we usually don't notice it because we have the physiology in the mind has all these wonderful techniques of dancing around dynamically, which paradoxically enables it to hold things as being stable when in fact the actual experience is dancing around wildly.
In the idea that, it seems like there's more continuity in the waking state, looking at the dream as not having continuity is only from the point of view of the waking state during the dream.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm always amazed how I'll have a dream where there's like a whole history. And I'm completely 100% bought into it. I understand it. I know it.
Yeah.
I wake up and it was like, gone. But in the dream itself, it had complete authority.
Yeah. And the mechanism that creates that's exactly the same mechanism that's doing it now in the waking state. Here you are in Seattle and you're at this talk and we've been here all morning and you got up this morning and left your house and all that.
I've had dreams that are so visceral it's taken me a couple of days to decipher that that was a dream. I'll find myself in my life looking for that, oh God, I gotta do this thing. It really drives home the what this life is really made of. You know, it's like a dream is that convincing that this is like
A dream is basically a free association. It's an opportunity to explore one's meaningfulness. And a waking life is exactly the same thing. That's what we do in our waking life. The activities and situations when you gravitate towards will be those things that you find meaningful in some sense. Exactly the same as a dream.
Now, from what I understand of lucid dreaming, people can kind of direct their experience more. Not necessarily.
Perhaps I'm not at all an expert on lucid dreaming. I've had more than several. I've had quite a few lucid dreams, but I don't regularly lucid dream. Some people I know seem to. But for me, when I would hear lucid in a dream, my experience was not one of wanting to direct it. It was once I saw it as a dream, to me it was just, oh, this is a dream. It doesn't matter what happens, and it was just a hoot all of a sudden,
Right.
And typically after whatever period of time, seemingly, then I would sort of drift off back into the dream, but with the attitude of joy and joyfulness at it, because there's still, even though I'm letting myself be lost in the dream, there's still this sort of feeling tone of, it's just a dream, this is what a lark, this is a hoot. And the waking life feels more and more like that too, as unfolding proceeds.
Will you say a little bit more about, like, for me, that's what's coming up a lot in my explorations is feeling tone. And it seems as though we have habitual feeling tones.
Yes.
I don't know exactly what my question is, but
Well,
it seems as though, I don't know where I am in the whole progression of yoga or whatever, but it seems like it's easy to see the emptiness of thoughts, and whatnot, but seems like feelings are one of the last holdouts.
Yeah.
Is that just totally arbitrary, or is that the way it often
No.
works?
no. Feelings are like a barometer or a pointer to subtle holdings. And so conscious holdings or semi-conscious holdings are relatively easy to identify. In other words, you're holding things to be a certain way. You're orienting to something as if it was some certain way that you had some handle on it, you had some feeling for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But as one becomes more mature and moves away from these obvious glaring orientations, holdings, it's like peeling the layers of an onion. You get to subtler and subtler orientations that you're not even aware of, but the evidence of them is the fact of their emotional reactivity that shows up in relation to them. And again, my recommendation is not to try to address that directly, or not to try to solve it on its own terms, but simply go to the texture of experience And that by its very nature will invalidate these holdings without needing to even address them directly.
Okay, so the current strategy I've sort of been playing with is, acknowledging whatever feelings, noticing them more as energy, and then kind of expanding and noticing subtler feelings that are concurrent and subtler feelings. Is that a
That's
good way to
fine.
go? Okay.
That's fine as long as you're not, as long as let go of orienting to it even as being feelings. I mean, have that be your jumping off point and then just sort of jump into it, let yourself float into it with no orientation at all. Just texture, just pure texture, textural presence. So that in other words, it's only a strategy if at all in the initial instance. It's like a diving board that you jump off of, but you don't know. Once you've jumped off, it's free fall. You don't know where you're going or even that you're going.
Right. But it seems to be a subconscious movement that
Yes.
that links feeling to an interpretation of the body. It seems like it takes a long time for that to kind of dissolve.
It can, yes. It's all ultimately subconscious. The conscious mind doesn't have effectiveness. The subconscious mind has effectiveness.
Is that? Are there exceptions? Wizardry of some sort, or some people talk about power of intention and whatnot. Is that just?
The power of intention is only powerful if it's subconscious as well. It may happen that the conscious mind is aligned with the subconscious. I mean, this is all very simplistically speaking, of course. It may happen that the subconscious is aligned with the conscious, and then the conscious intention may seem to be powerful. But it's just an accidental alignment. The subconscious is what's powerful. And the subconscious is difficult to address directly. The reason this textual exploration is powerful because texture is the language of the subconscious. The language of the conscious is not delineations and definitions. It's all textures and vibes and flavors. So in a way, by doing a more textural exploration, or whatever you want to call it, you're consciously orienting to the unconscious's domain. So you're sort of making the boundary between conscious and unconscious modes sort of permeable. Should we take another 5-minute break? Or you want to plow ahead?
I'm for breaking.
Well, then anarchy prevails. It's always the wisest mode anyway.
I'm still finding myself concerned about the 100-degree weather.
Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
You're not actually concerned about the 100-degree weather, you're concerned about your fantasy of what that would be.
Yeah.
The 100-degree weather is not an actuality experientially for you.
So here in Seattle, when it's like 85, 88, I have to go kind of fist to high. And so I'm having a hard time imagining trying to walk from one building to the next and not fainting. I don't know. Is there anything you can do with this line?
I'll leave that to the expert.
I
Put a
like
wet scarf on it.
I like what you were
that, you know, dreams are just a way to explore your own meaningfulness, and the waking state is too, and that's an incredible way to hold those things that you may superficially at least read as stressful, fearful, is exploring your own meaningfulness, and there's no answer. There doesn't
No.
seem to be any answer
There is
to
no
it.
answer.
It's
Any
just-
more than there's an answer to a dream.
Yeah, or like looking at a color. You know, it's not like you have some answer to the color.
No.
You know, it's just what you're feeling and what you're receiving, and it's gone as soon as you have it anyway.
You know,
Anyway, I just
these experiential panoramas, like the waking state or the dream state, is like a Rorschach blot or something. There's all of this infinity of potential associations and information, and your energy, according to its proclivity, according to, you know, its intrinsic nature of what it, you know, gravitates towards creating and orienting to what it finds meaningfulness out of the raw material of all of this, you know, this inconceivable breadth of information that is not actually oriented in any particular way. So it's the association that creates the meaningfulness.
and the
that-
meaningfulness doesn't
and it
mean
ignores most of
anything.
it. No, it means something because of you. It's relevant to your process at that instant, whatever that is, and whatever that means, which is of course unresolvable.
I guess what I'm saying when I say that meaningfulness doesn't mean anything is just that it also can't be read except it can just be felt. It
Right,
can't be
yeah,
like
it's not rational.
parts.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, okay, that's it. It's not
Not
rational, right?
It's really not.
Something I wanted to ask you about, hope it's not just a personal interest, but you know that guy Richard Rose?
I know the name.
I don't know
much
him
about
very well either, but I know he used to talk about something. I think we used to talk about something called betweenness, and for him it was like a manifesting thing. It's like, you know, you kind of set intention or whatever, and then totally release your interest, attachment, or whatever. He said things tend to happen, but he said he also talked about something called ultimate betweenness, which was the desire for realization, to really set one's intent on realization and then release it. And he said that tended. So, you know, I guess he presented it as some sort of a magic for realization. Do you have any response to something like that?
It's a way of putting it.
See any value in it, maybe?
Well, both setting intention and releasing in actuality are not something that are consciously controllable. So advising that or recommending it seems pointless. I mean, in your case, I would say you probably have the intention. You wouldn't have bothered to drive all the way down here today.
Why don't I
And
keep
then-
finding myself?
And then the releasing part is in your own embracing of the subtlety and the fluidity, artfully, of your nature, of your experience. If you're with your nature heavy-handedly, then that's basically not a particularly releasing
Right.
stance. Whereas if you're with it fluidly and subtly, then you are flowing within the natural release that it consists of.
Right.
To me, the single powerful approach such as it is seeing. And seeing means seeing what is present. I.e., go to the dots of light, not to the lines that you're using to connect it. And seeing immediately, it dissolves all connections, or it reveals them as artificial and arbitrary, and reveals the ultimate nature. It is the fullness of enlightenment right here, right now, simply by seeing that it is that. Whether or not it sticks is irrelevant. The seeing of it is the single most powerful and complete engagement you can possibly indulge in, to the extent that it's meaningful to say you can indulge in it. And it doesn't require any formula or any, any setting of intention and subsequent releasing or anything like that. Simply the seeing is the revelation of actuality in its fullness. And it's powerful because it's self-verifying. It is actual. It is the sole objective fact. And because it's actual, because it's real, because it's true, it's much more powerful than things which are not actual, not real, not true, like our fantasies about the way we connect all these dots that are actually not connected.
Isn't there a tendency in the clear seeing for many of us to make a concept of what now is apparently clearly being seen?
Absolutely.
And so again, that needs to be.
Well, but the seeing, you don't need to sort of serially or piecemeal see these things one at a time. The seeing goes across the board. It's like erasing a whole blackboard. Then the blackboard may redraw itself, but it's irrelevant because you've erased the blackboard. So you're seeing a blackboard without any writing on it. And that will stick. That has staying power because again, it's not arbitrary or artificial or contrived. It's actually true. If the seeing is artful and genuine, if you're actually seeing what is present here.
That's so interesting because even now, as you describe that, there's a sense of that seeing where everything just kind of blurs into nothing discernible.
For sure, because then that's always being seen.
Yeah.
The seeing is it's very subtle because it's not something that you do that you aren't doing. It's actually, that's why I kind of call it noticing. You're noticing that it's something that you're in fact always doing at the perspective or the level, so to speak, at which you are doing that. So the seeing is not a new activity. It's noticing that you're always seeing. You're noticing that you're always looking at the blurred, disconnected, infinitely luscious actuality. And then whether or not you shift perspectives and all of a sudden see all of the contrivances and associations that are based on that is basically irrelevant. Because that perspective, that layer is manifestly, doesn't come and go. It's not something that it goes away when you're not doing it, and it comes when you are doing it. When you're not noticing it, you just happen to not be, attending to that perspective.
But having noticed it, one may be more prone then to notice it again.
Exactly so.
And build a momentum of noticing.
Exactly so. And that's intrinsically the case. It seems to build its own momentum, so it's not even something one needs to do or develop or, initiate some kind of a program. Every instance of genuine seeing will powerfully be the seed of future instances.
So then you move beyond the sensitivity training we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. That's a myth.
Yeah.
Maybe a useful myth, hopefully. It's really being more sensitively with what your experience actually is, as opposed to sort of glossing it over and heavy-handedly, seeing it through a filter of needing to name things and needing to describe things.
For me, that needing to name things and needing to ascribe characteristics to things, and for lack of a better word, operating out there in the material world, that seems pretty heavy-handedly from childhood. It's
Sure. Well, it is for all of us.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
sure that's the normal human motive. We've all been brainwashed in that. We
Pretty
have a lifelong
insidious, right?
enforcement of it.
Yeah.
But even that is occurring in the context of this. So again, it's not an either or.
Yeah.
It's not like you need to stop doing that. Anytime the seeing can happen, just in that instance, it's powerful. It's transformative. Just in that instance, even if it's once in a blue moon.
yeah, that's about my frequency.
Oh, yeah. We find out on a rhythm,
We're doing this all the time, and that must be transformative, even though
course.
we're not.
Of course. And everyone's transforming.
Yeah.
You know, to age is to acquire wisdom. To age is to develop. So this is not a new and different process. This is the intrinsic process of life itself. This is just trying to be with that process as maximize its efficiency, if doable.
It's a nice comment on age.
Well, sure.
I hadn't thought of it quite that way.
Well, sure. I mean, look at it. I mean, look at what we're like when we're kids. We're these foolish people running around doing inane things, and and as one ages, one doesn't necessarily instantly stop being a fool, but one's approach deepens, gets more subtle, gets more open to ambiguity and complexity, and gets more sensitive, and so on and so forth. And this is spontaneously true for everyone, in whatever way it is, given the nature of each individual. I mean, life itself is already doing that. This yoga is just a special instance, or an instance of trying to maximize the efficiency of that process, which is already ongoing, already the case.
So you're saying the system's rigged?
Yes, it's completely rigged. Completely rigged. It's an inside job. God always wins.
Seems to me that the notion of aging has an entrapment in itself.
Oh, right.
In that if I think I am aging, which I have often thought, and if I believe then that this is a short life because I'm aging, aging implies there's an ending to this process, and therefore there's death not far away, and boy, I better get this act together. There's not much time left. If I get caught in that, and I certainly have been in the past, then the whole notion of aging has been a disservice to seeing clearly.
Sure.
Whereas you're not coming from that perspective when you talk about aging, but ultimately, no aging, right? I mean, we're talking
Right.
about a spontaneity of what this right here, right now.
Yes. And yet this spontaneity seems, emphasis on seems, to have this sort of, flow downhill, if you will, where it's moving in the direction of knowing itself.
Mm-hmm.
And what we might call aging, or the process of spontaneously acquiring a wisdom or a greater depth over the course of time, is an aspect of this primal, whatever it is, directionality of this. The way this moves towards itself. This moves ever deeper into itself, as if it's deliberately exploring itself or deliberately investigating itself, and then re-experience that in terms of these kinds of things, in terms of the development of insight and spiritual unfoldment, or just the acquisition of wisdom over the course of a school of hard knocks of life, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's all the same thing. And that seems to be, again, operative emphasis on seems to be sort of the way of things. Whatever's up with that.
Mm-hmm.
But the point I wanted to emphasize was that the seeing is always happening. even if it's being glossed over by complexities of, imaginary interpretations, interpretive frameworks, and so on and so forth. And so seeing is not doing something new or different that you're not already doing. Seeing is more noticing something but that you're already doing more primally or more conclusively. So it's more shifting of perspective to appreciate a sort of a fundamental, a radical condition or event that is always the case. I mean, and so by extension on this similar theme, realization has always been true. When one acquires realization, achieves realization, it's simply recognizing what one has always been, as opposed to imagining that one is different. Imagining that one is not realized, or imagining that one is a separate individual, or imagining that one is limited and all that. One discovers that in actual fact that has never been true. So it's not the acquisition of a new condition, or the cessation of an old condition. It's just the noticing of what has always been the case. And the process of coming to that can look like that exact same noticing. So in a profound sense, realization is the path to realization. So this noticing of this primal condition that is always the case is realization of the transcendental actuality, is realization of the condition that is realized in realization proper, and is part and parcel of the path of coming to that. So it's all, it's one thing that happens in one way. It happens by its own nature.
Generated within itself.
Yeah. And you're already doing it, so it's really like a trick of the light. It's the very slightest little, to see that or notice that is just the slightest little, glancing, metaphorically speaking, glancing away from, you're used to looking over here, well, why don't you just look over here? And, oh, wow, I'm not used to looking here.
Would it be accurate to suggest it's like a shifting of attention from what comes and goes, or what appears to arise, or to what is always here?
Sure.
Awareness.
Although not simplistically. Not simplistically. So looking for something that has coming and going is always here too.
Yes.
So that is part and parcel of what you're shifting your attention to.
Yeah.
But you're shifting attention to the coming and going, not what's coming and going.
Yeah.
Because the what's coming and going is mental fabrication, whereas the actual coming and going, so to speak, is actuality itself, or awareness itself.
Yeah. That's good. It's very subtle.
It's very subtle.
Yeah.
Very, very subtle. Because it includes itself. It includes its own deviations. So the deviations that are taken to be problems are actually the fundamental nature.
Yeah.
But seeing it in the perspective that it actually is in reveals that, as opposed to seeing it erroneously as all of these autonomously existing conditions and so on and so forth, separate entities.
Yeah. It's like what's coming and going is kind of objectifies it into these objects of things,
Yeah.
but the coming and going,
Yes.
or this.
Yes. Yeah, it never stops coming and going. It's never stable. It never settles down. There's no stasis. And the condition of no stasis is the stasis.
It's a very, very subtle shift.
It's very, very subtle.
Nothing in particular.
Yeah, very, very subtle. The true peace is the condition of no peace.
I'm sorry?
The true peace is the condition of no peace. There's absolutely no peace, and that is the true peace. Sorry, I'm just waxing the poetry. Poetry or gibberish, your choice.
I find poetry as really it has an ability to kind of stop the thinking process. It just drops you into
Because it's irrational. And this actuality, this event here is fundamentally irrational. It makes absolutely no sense, and it's completely inconceivable and unanalyzable. So anything that shifts one to an irrational modes inherently opens one to the native mode of actuality. That's another reason why a textual exploration of experience is potentially powerful, because texture is completely irrational. You can't get a handle on it or define it or pin it down.
This reminds me of people that get into wine tasting. They get into all these little subtle definitions of all these things on their tongue, and they're just going off, and it sounds like total fantasy, but they're all comparing notes, and they're like chocolate and tobacco and brass.
Just
and
drink the fucking wine.
Well, they first got to take it out of the bag, though.
And wine?
You want.
That's wine with an O on the end.
Yeah. Or like listening to music. I mean, somebody's listening to music. They're just letting their senses free, and they're getting into these subtle realms that they can't describe those.
Yeah, I mean, hedonism, letting go into sensory pleasure, whatever you find enjoyable, is the easiest and most fun and most short path version of yoga there is. If you like listening to music, put on the headphones, lie back, close your eyes, and just float away. That is very high level yoga. Or look at the sunset or something. There's no way you can get a handle on it. It's just like wow, and you just drink in the lusciousness. And that is very profound noticing. Because what's being seen and what's seeing it is the only thing there. There's no story, there's no,
But you can do that with very ugly, violent.
anything whatsoever. Anything. It's a matter of your inclinations and your taste. That's fine. I mean, if you're like suppose you like violent sports, suppose you're a person who likes boxing or something. If you're really, really into it, that could perhaps be a great vehicle for noticing, beating the shit out of somebody, or getting the shit beat out of you, correspondingly. Whatever, right?
It's like extreme sports, surfers and stuff like that will often report that they literally go away. They're so focused on what they're doing, and it comes out of it's like a religious experience.
Yeah. Anyone that pushes the envelope, anyone that does something obsessively, or to really get off, that's what's going on there. And the doing of it alone is potentially powerful. And when you realize that what you're doing, when you see that is reality itself, then that's the icing on the cake. Then you really get to appreciate the power of it and maximize it.
And like taking acid and dancing.
Like rock climbing without any ropes. That's a good
These
one.
days for me, it's not taking acid and watching TV. That's about as extreme as I get. Youth.
Well, you find out that, even the most boring situations, you can do it.
Yes.
You don't need to do this extreme stuff.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Because everything is extreme. I mean, the point that the logic or the rationale of extreme as extreme is getting out of normalcy. And by all means get out of normalcy, but perhaps the easiest way to get out of normalcy is notice there is no such thing.
Right.
And you don't need to go very far to get out of it.
Some of that is just predilection that people
Oh,
have.
absolutely.
It seems like it doesn't have anything to do with anything.
It's all predilection. I mean, everything. Everyone is just the expression of their nature, and everyone finds their own mediums of exploration. Okay, now it's officially time for a 5-minute break.
Okay.
I'll be there.
So this is that?
Huh?
You have to catch a flight now?
No. Just a break.
Official break.
I probably would run a vacuum over it, just saying.
I've been involved in years.
That's my extreme sport.
This sort of thing, they do until election.
What a
It would,
day.
the whole thing would change. It's because it's like, it's an
Yes.
recorded history. We've always been, there's been those who've been fighting against the oppressed, fighting against the oppressed.
I know. Well, and just the way you get it, I don't know, I guess it's just room or something.
But it's really something, it's proven itself,
Went right into
the results, the proof's in the pudding. So what if you're just being told to snap out of it, to not get any more
Yeah, you don't really have the time, the luxury.
Can you imagine that situation, they're concerned, but not giving it a full weight around it and what we are. There may be attention given, and that's what
I am so sorry.
that's what it's saying. But there still would be a response to those kinds of things that may require some action, you know?
Yeah. But when you take, and I think,
I lost my. Don't leave it without it.
it's such that we're wired that that's not going on for a few of us just to disregard it. You know, you can make all kinds of arguments. Dude, they can come knocking on my door.
And we should have learned long ago that it needs to be responded to itself, because it's really not coming from a place of full understanding, but rather the reactivity
Quite obsessive.
wrapped up in its own.
Well, I have
It's
to
like,
make I have to make a decision, and
You know, I mean, those examples
I
are.
have to, it's not gonna be like when I'm going to race in Seattle.
Flip a coin. Flip a coin.
I actually, flipping a coin is really a great way to make decisions. And if you feel really shitty about what comes up, you know you gotta pick
Well,
different.
if you don't know how to make the right decision, whenever you do a process, you analyze it over for months, you'll still make a decision you don't want.
Right.
The desert, hot in the desert is not as bad as hot in a regular climate. Cold in the desert is not as bad as cold in the desert.
Right, that's what I was saying,
Much
maybe
more
like when I'm
transparent.
in Seattle, it just feels.
Oh, no, that would be hell.
Weird.
That would be hell. You know, the desert's like 8 degrees somewhere else.
No, it's actually kind of lovely.
It is, it's country.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you get out in the sun and it drops down.
Just to be out in the sun,
Oh, yeah.
just to be out in the sun, anytime you
Feel
feel
definitely.
Yeah, because the air has no humidity to retain the heat.
And that's what makes it delicious, it's humidity. You don't know this?
Coming out of the
No,
level
not
of ground
really, I mean, you know,
of who we are, where we
I don't
are.
like this either year.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you think this is like a new
Yeah.
No, I'm trying,
I started, yeah.
Seems good.
The desert's actually kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
It's in contrast. It's a desert.
What's the matter? Yeah.
But isn't Josh Country sort of at some elevation, isn't it? Yeah.
London,
Yeah, I
it's like 3,000 some feet or something.
I always read that when I see somebody.
I've heard it, I've never been asked.
The light there is like no place else. It's so big. It's
Sounds good.
A few years ago, we did a canoe trip. A few years ago, we did a canoe trip in southern Utah, and like the average daily temperature there was like 5 or 10, something like that. And so what we did was we just took like and grab kind of thing, or just something in this you soak it every once in a while, and just put it around your shoulder. And you see the downside, and it changes
Just know hanging in, there's no hanging out. You know, it goes 4 minutes to walk in the building. And you have a parasol or something, the sun off, you're going to let it on.
Maybe that's all I need. Let's see here. You'll be fine. Yeah.
Is it southern Utah?
Wow.
really is stunning.
Did you guys see a lot of stars? Aware.
I've never seen them melt that thing.
Me neither. We went outside of Moab, about 35 miles.
Yes.
Just went up down and just, there's nowhere.
Yeah, great memories.
That's very good. I think actually,
We did about a 10-day canoe trip down the Green River.
So you were just camping, like, holding your.
Just beside the river.
And they,
So, you know, it takes 2 or 3 days
they
to get
come in
really
and
kind
go
of
right.
dialed in to your surroundings, and then it's just floating on air.
Wow.
No, 2 couples.
What's that river like? Is it?
It's really varies every season, even year to year.
You're we went to very small.
Yeah.
Just cruising gently. It is, wow. That sounds fun.
And of course, the availability of campsites to fill and water level lost too. So years when it's high and fast, so there aren't nearly as many places you can pull over.
Oh, yeah, of course, that makes sense. Is it, are you camping in natural places or just, you just pull over to a place you're into? Is it like natural?
Wherever you can. Yeah, no amenities, you can take everything out with you.
Yeah, right.
So if you want slower water, it's good to go in like August or something. Melt on this.
And it was 10 days.
For a long time.
That was nice.
Feeling, knowing,
Oh, that's what I like to talk about.
Where do you work?
You hear the same thing we do. And sometimes you, if it's rain in what they're saying, you know, you think about blah, blah,
Peter, have you ever done DMT?
Huh?
Have you ever done DMT?
Have you?
Just in ayahuasca form.
In my case, it was back in the hippie days, so I don't know what it really was.
Okay.
Always smoked it.
Is that the like normal way you do?
So you guys are the
Like you would just leave the room or leave the house.
Oh, that's
Well, fast and vicious.
It goes a long way to shattering any notions of the reality of all this sort of stuff.
Is it?
Yeah, last 20 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I find that always found the most amazing thing about it was that you start from here, say, and you go in and everything kind of fractalizes. And then you're in that, it's something
Nothing's happening.
completely different from what you
Yeah.
went into it. What was interesting
Nothing's
is that
happening,
coming
everything's
out of
happening.
it disappears in the
Nothing
same
ever.
sort of
Yeah.
way.
Except it all happens.
Like, oh, I'm back in reality. It's like this just kind of like is another manifestation that is completely unfamiliar until something clicks like memory, like, oh,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It feels alien when you come back.
yes. And so it really went a long way to shattering that sort of like the solidity of this.
That's
It wasn't
valuable.
just
Wow.